What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Thomas back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. Now this week there wasn't really anything going on. There's still going on about the whole Biden pulling troops out of Afghanistan on the news, so that's basically the big news. It's still going. This week though, I did just finish watching all 32 seasons of The Amazing Race. Now they're working on 33 now. Hopefully that'll be out soon. They stopped production over the whole CV crap. So anyways, hopefully they have it done here pretty soon and they'll get it out. Now this show, it started like in 2001, and it was I think it was Buckheimer or whatever his name is. He got it started, some producer or whatever. First few seasons, the only thing they had going on really was the fast forward. That was part of the game. You know, race around the world, do the task, roadblocks or whatever, and then you had a fast forward, which allowed a team to jump in front of other teams if they went and did it and got it done first. Later on, about I would say season 5, I believe it was, they introduced what's called the yield, and they had a situation where they would take all their money. If they were in a non-elimination leg of the race, Phil would take all their money, and then they would go around and have to beg for money or whatever to continue the race. I thought it was kind of a dumb concept. They also took all their stuff, so I mean they didn't have any money and they took all their stuff. So this made no sense to me, because what would happen 90% of the time was the other players would basically give them money and give them some clothes or whatever, you know, make it through. Most of the teams, I'm telling you right now, throughout the series, most of the teams I didn't care for. I didn't care for most of the teams. There were just one or two teams I might like. And usually the team that I always figured end up with winning is usually not the team that would win. I think I was right maybe once or twice, just a few times maybe. Otherwise, I was never right. Now in the beginning, they would show that they would have like 12 hours before the next leg. When they come in for a leg, they'd have like 12 hours to rest and bullshit and blah blah blah. And they used to show all that crap in the first few seasons, but after that they stopped doing that. Eventually they had a rule about halfway through the seasons. They started having a rule where you had to come when you came in and landed on the mat to meet Phil, you would have to have your backpacks with you, because the first several seasons they were just slinging their backpacks and shit and running to the mat, or they'd lose their backpacks or some shit. So you know, they made it kind of a rule you had to have your backpacks. Now you always had to have your passports and papers and shit, but the backpacks, that came later. Earlier versions or seasons of the show, your partner was able to actually holler at you if it was a roadblock, you know, and try to help you out. And then later on they stopped that. You couldn't help your partner at all on the roadblock. Other thing I saw a lot of times is teams would make the mistake of reading clues in front of others instead of keeping them to themselves. So a lot of times, most of the other teams would take advantage of this. A lot of teams would take advantage of that situation. That happened quite often. A lot of the teams, you'll see this a lot. A lot of the teams are extremely disrespectful to other countries' cab drivers. Oh, it's the number one thing that every single team seems to fuck up. I swear, this generation did not have GPS on their phone. They would never know where the fuck they were going because they can't read maps worth of shit. None of the teams could. They were always getting lost all the time, every season, because they didn't know how to read a fucking map. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world, but they can't do it. So they always ended up getting lost, especially in other countries. Now I could see maybe having a little bit more difficulty reading a map from a different country, but honestly, a map's a map. You can read road signs and shit like that. These teams couldn't do it. They just couldn't figure out how to read a fucking map. They needed a GPS. It's fucking stupid and retarded. But they were really disrespectful to most of the cab drivers. Because cab drivers, you know, like, they'd be pissed at them because they didn't know how to speak English. Well, they're in a different fucking country. You can't expect them to fucking know your language when you're going into their country. You should know theirs. Fucking ridiculous. Now, a lot of times they would get fucked up because the teams would get screwed up because they would go with a cab driver who doesn't know how to speak English and don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're telling them, hey, I want to go to this place or that place. That cab driver don't know because they don't speak English or anything. So that's on them. But they would get pissed off at the cab driver, which was dumb. Now, there was a couple times where the cab driver was pretty much scamming him. You know, I've seen that a couple of times too. But most of the time, they were just hateful to them cab drivers. It was just ridiculous. A lot of the teams don't even completely read all their clues. They will rush to the next site without reading the clue, and it fucks them up every time. You got to read your clue before you go to your next place or roadblock or whatever, the next section in the game. But a lot of times they wouldn't do that. They just rush and go. They'd follow another team or something, and it'd fuck them up every time. Almost every season, another thing that drove me up the wall was you always had to have your token gay team. You had to have your token black team. Or you'd have to have your token old couple team. They did that almost on every season. There was at least one of these teams on every single season. The old couples teams, they would always talk the biggest shit too, and then they'd end up losing every single time. It never failed. They always lost. By the time they got to season 8, they did this thing where they had a family kind of thing where they did teams of 4 and they were all family members. That was a little bit strange. Okay, whatever. It didn't work out so well. It wasn't the greatest season, honestly. Another thing that they always seemed to screw up was, reserving tickets or trying to get to the airport and get tickets. That shit, they constantly screw that crap up all the time, trying to get tickets. It was always fucking each other up and doing that shit. That seemed to be a major problem with all the teams, was trying to get tickets to try to get ahead. I could understand some of these teams, they get way ahead have all this time, and then boop, they got to sit and wait, and then all the other teams catch up, and it's basically starts this race all over from the beginning, which is bullshit. I think that's fucked up. If they've got time to get ahead, they should stay ahead. They shouldn't have to stop somewhere for a roadblock and wait for every other team to show up to start again. That's bullshit. By season 10, they stopped taking the money away and shit. They did something called the intersection clue, where teams would have to work together to get through like a particular roadblock. Your teams, they would pretend to be friendly with each other, but they'd stab each other in the back all the time. They'd only help each other out. They felt they were benefiting from it or getting ahead. By season 12, they introduced the speed bump, which from that point forward, it was, if you lost a leg, but it was a non-elimination leg, you were last team in. The next leg, you would have an extra task to complete before you could continue on with the race or the next roadblock. You'd have to do this. That team would have to do the speed bump first. Then they started doing the blind U-turns, where teams wouldn't know who was U-turning who. Sometimes, but most of the time you knew who was U-turning somebody. They used to only do one, and then they started doing 2 U-turns. By the 17th season, they introduced the express pass and the double U-turn. Now there was 2 U-turn back to back, like 2 teams could U-turn 2 other teams. An express pass, you get it if you're the first team to win the first leg. The express pass allows you to bypass a certain roadblock. By season 18, they did a run where they had rung in some past competitors and had them race against each other. Season 19 introduced the hazard penalty. Basically, you would go on 2 legs, and 2 people would get, or 2 teams would be eliminated after 2 legs. On season 21, if they won the first team to win the first leg would get double the money or the prize money or whatever for the first leg, instead of just the regular amount. Season 22 introduced 2 express passes. There's a lot of controversy over the season 22 because they had this Vietnam song, and it was all about praising communism and socialism, which was really cringe. That wasn't a great season. Now the 2 express passes that they introduced in this, the team that got the express pass from winning the first leg got 2 express passes, but at the end of the first leg, they had to decide who they were going to give the second express pass to, because they couldn't use them both. They had to give one away. Season 24, they kind of brought back several competitors and had them go at it again, which is okay. Now in season 25, they introduced what's called the save. Basically, you could use the save if you were in, you were going to get eliminated, like you were the last one to come in. If you got the save card, you could play it and you wouldn't be eliminated. You got to stay in the competition. Season 26, there was a bunch of single people not in a relationship, and half of them, there were like 5 of them, they would put other 5 people with them that were also single. So they paired up people who didn't know each other, supposedly, and had them race together. Now, season 25, they did this thing with the Express Pass. They get a ticket to Rio to start off and find the Express Pass. Now, there was a couple black guys on here. One of them claiming that they were homeless, living in a car and everything. But yet, all their clothes, they're wearing gold chains and all this other crap. And you're just like, yeah, okay, you have no money, whatever. Now, they had to use the Express Pass before the 5th leg and give it to another for the next leg. So that was a little change on the Express Pass. And then by season 28, they did the YouTube edition, and they brung them back again eventually to do it again, some YouTubers. So they've had a couple of seasons with YouTubers. But otherwise, that was the main gist of the show. Most of the mistakes were rectifiable, but they just kept making them. It just got a little ridiculous. They were just, and when you're watching them, you're going, oh, what are you doing, you idiot? It's right there. Like they bypass something like 50 times. And you're like, you're looking right at it. What the hell is your problem? But I think the most part, it was always directions that always screwed the team. Like they couldn't figure out where they're going. That was not, or they weren't reading a clue right, or it was the time change with the airline tickets. Those were the three main problems with every team. Those are the three main problems, and they always screws them up. But that was the Amazing Race. I like the show, I really do. Not because of all the drama crap. I could deal less with the drama. The women are the worst on that show. They're so bad. Now there's some guys that are idiots too, but the women are really bad as far as the drama crap goes. But I like the aspects of them going to different countries and doing certain tasks and learning more about the culture and stuff. That's always kind of cool to watch. That's why I like the show so much. I hope to see the season 33 here pretty soon. Alright, let's move on to your B-movie reviews. Okay, all you movie holics. This week is Comedy Week. Now I chose two older comedy films. Both have a little horror mixed in with them. The first one is called Saturday the 14th. It was done 1981. Starred Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentice. It made about $4 million. It really didn't do all that great. But I always thought it was a TV-made movie, but apparently not. I remember it from back when I was a child. It would come on like a month straight until Halloween, like the month of October. They'd play it like several times. Basically the story is this kid finds this book and opens it, and it releases all these monsters into the world. Now, unless they can put all the monsters back in the book, kind of a doomsday prophecy, the world's going to be destroyed and then evil reigns supreme kind of thing. You have a particular vampire couple who's trying to stop this from happening. They want to continue on. They don't want evil to rule the world because they're pretty much in power right now, so they don't want that to happen. So they're trying to stop it from happening. you have this guy who pretends to be a professor when he's actually the supposed evil overlord or whatever and wants to rule the world. They end up stopping him. In the end, they destroy him and they get all the monsters back in the book. That's pretty much the end of the movie. It was cheesy, campy, but it was cheesy, campy fun of the 80s. It wasn't bad. It was alright for what it was. I mean, it's pretty silly, but, you know, it was more of a kid's flick to me than it was, you know, an adult one. There is one scene where it was hilarious when they were talking about the wife being pregnant at the dinner table. And the professor dude, he says, you know, Rosemary had a baby too. And that was like the only really funny part in the whole movie. I mean, seriously funny. The rest of it was just, you know, goofy shit. But that was a pretty funny joke. And kids probably wouldn't have got that joke anyway. So, other than that, the movie was alright. It was, like I said, it was cheesy, campy, but cheesy, campy fun. So it was okay for what it was. It wasn't really funny. It was more silly. Like I said, it was more of a kid's flick. I mean, it's okay for a one-time watch. I give it 2 thumbs up. Check it out. It was alright. It wasn't bad. I recommend it. Especially if you want to watch something with your kids. The next one is Saturday the 14th Strikes Back. I did not even know they made a sequel. I really didn't. I had no idea until I went to start to watch the first one just this past week. I was like, oh, they made a sequel. Well, I guess I'll do that one too. It was done in 1988. It starred Ray Walston and Patty McCormick. I didn't find any box office, obviously. I mean, it wasn't really box office material, to be honest. You have this kid named Eddie Baxter who pretty much narrates the whole thing and talks through it most of the time. He talks about himself in the third person. Basically, he claims himself as the son of the devil or some shit. And the monsters are pretty much coming out. All the planets and yada yada, they all line up at one point in time in so many years, and it happened on his birthday, so basically he's now the son of Satan or some bullshit like that. And they want him to rule the world. And then his grandfather, which is played by Ray Walston, and some other dude, they're supposed to be like these old ass ancient wizards that's been around Earth for thousands of years trying to protect Earth or whatever. And they're trying to help him overcome the evil and refuse being tempted by the dark side and becoming the Lord of Satan. And becoming an evil ruler. Eddie don't want this, so he decides to help cast out the monsters and send them back wherever they came from. And they eventually do, and that's the end of the movie. This movie was... it wasn't even cheesy, campy, fun, 80s style. It was just dumb, weird, dumb. It was what it was. It was dumber than shit. It was bad. I'm surprised I made it through the whole thing. I definitely give this one 2 thumbs down. It's not worth it. I'm telling you right now. You'll be extremely disappointed. Don't even bother watching this movie. I do not recommend it. Okay. That's all I have for you this week. If you have any comments on what I talked about earlier about the Amazing Race, please leave them down in the comment section down below. Any thoughts? What's your take on the Amazing Race? Let me know. If you know of any films that you consider underrated, you think I might not have ever heard of them or seen them, please leave your suggestions down in the comments section down below. I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. So until next time, I told you to be told the truth, and you've just been told.